Howdy, fellas. I have returned with round 4 from the teams tournament that I've been doing recently. I need that out. I can't put that away. Okay, so round 4 I got paired into a Dwarven Holds army. From memory, I think I was pretty happy with it. Because pretty much any time I see a static army, I like to play against it. A little bit different now that I don't have Dark Rain, so I'm not sure. But I do like, if my enemy's a little bit limited in their lateral movement, it's typically quite good for my single models and my Chariot Star as well. So I think from memory this was favourable for me in my prediction. My opponent brought a Rune of Lightning BSB, he brought a Runic Smith, he brought an Anvil of Power, he brought big blocker Clan Warriors, a few small Clan Warrior units, 60 Seekers across 3 units, which is probably the biggest issue sort of for me in the list. 2 units of 10 Miners, 2 Runecrafted Catapults, and 2 Ballista. So pretty much in this game, I don't care that much about the Clan Warrior brick. I don't think it's that scary to me. Mainly because, for some things it obviously is, but I think my Chariot Star and my Gortach are both terrific things to fight that. The 60 Seekers are always going to be a problem, just because it's so hard to get through that many wounds. My monsters don't want to fight them, because they always wound on 4s. My characters are maybe okay with it, because I've got the impact hits, but they can still get bogged down, so it's not as great. And the other problem is, so other than the Seekers, the other problem is basically sometimes that artillery might just go off, kill my characters, kill a monster or something, pretty easy without me being able to do much to stop him. So those are sort of my concerns, but I still like the fact that, I feel like if I don't position myself poorly and if I don't get out, if I don't just get unlucky with his shooting, it's likely to be quite good for me, was my theory. So this is deployment. I've got a lot of pictures for this one, so some of them might be duplicates, I don't really know, but we'll go through and see how we did. I'm 99% sure that I got first turn, so I think my opponent won the roll for sides. Yeah, he did for sure, because I wouldn't have given him the bottom, so he must have won the roll for sides. This, I think, was marching columns deployment, so I started dropping... I think I started dropping from the right. I dropped my Giants early. No, I'm not really sure. I'm not sure what it was. Because theoretically, if I dropped everything, he would want to be sat down over in this corner rather than this corner. So maybe I'm just wrong. I'm not sure. Regardless, this is the situation that we came up in. Pretty much my Giants are going to put massive pressure on this right-hand flank. He's only got the Seekers to deal with them, which... he's got these other 3 units, but theoretically I think I should win those combats. We're playing Breakthrough Objective as well, so I see a pretty decent path for my Centaurs to sort of zone for quite a bit of the game and then try to get into the deployment zone late. Plus, I've got my Ambushing Scorers, obviously, who are always good for Breakthrough Objective. My opponent's got his Catapults and his Anvil protected down in this corner, and he's got his Ballistas out with their dicks in the wind, because they're obviously real cheap and don't matter as much. Yes, this is my turn 1. I pretty much just moved up quite aggressively. I'm not sure if I don't think I had cover ideas or anything. The Chariots in the middle might have just been making sure that he couldn't get out of line of sight of my characters and my Centaurs when he got a magical move. Other than that, basically, I didn't give him any charges. Those Giants should probably move. I don't know what those Giants were doing. Because they would have vanguarded. So I don't really know. Maybe... I don't know. I don't know what I was doing with them. I would have thought I would push them up pretty aggressively. I think I was being a little bit cagey with them, going like, I don't care so much about what happens on the right. I need to keep those scoring units from getting through to my objective. And if I keep my monsters at the back, I might be able to send them after miners. If the miners come on early, basically. I also brought my Briar Beast on turn 1 right next to his Ballista. So, this was my opponent's move. He was able to get those Clan Warriors out of line of sight of everything with the hill there. Otherwise, he pretty much stayed where he was. Yeah, not much happened. He did do 3 wounds to my Druid with, I think, a Catapult. So in my turn, I moved the Druid out of the unit and blocked line of sight to him with the other Chariots. Basically, because if I've got the Druid in the... So 1, he can't be shot at now. And if I've got him out of the unit, I can cast Summer Growth on him, and he'll get back 2 wounds or 3 if I've got Thrown Up. Whereas if he's in the unit, Summer Growth doesn't work on the characters, so I can only heal 1 wound per turn with the Druidism attribute. Both of my Wildhorns came on, which I would have liked probably to keep them in the hand, but they rolled decent enough to come on. I had ideas of sort of sending them both over onto the right-hand side as far away as I could get, but at this point I was looking at it thinking, I'm quite happy with the position in the game. I'll get 1 down there safely, where they're not going to be touched by anything except maybe catapults. The other one will cause a bit of a threat to things, because I'm still kind of okay with my Centaurs where they are, and their chances of getting into the deployment zone as well. I'm pretty sure I didn't give him any charges on the left still. Basically, didn't want to get myself out of position. Was kind of happy with how the left was going, so didn't need to push too hard, so long as I wasn't going to get unlucky to shooting. It was all going to be okay, I was figuring. That's basically what's happening. And I must have gotten Summer Growth off because I've healed my Druid completely. The Briar Beast is fighting his Ballista. Looks like it did 1 wound in the first round, but that's just a combat that I should eventually win, basically. I think those Chariots were keeping an eye on... So basically, I have to... the thing that I have to be concerned about with these 3 warrior units is if they get through, they're going to go try and score the objective, and I've got nothing to stop them. So I need to have enough things sort of threatening to make them... basically to stop them from doing that. So it's making these guys... Not so much the Centaurs, but the Chariots here and the Giants play a little bit more defensive. Okay. So this is after my opponent's turn, where he must have killed a Chariot with ballistas or catapults. No, I think the catapults were doing the damage to the Seekers. He's basically chaffed me with his Seekers, with my characters with his Seekers. And his miners came on. I think they also shot the Chariots. Potentially they did the damage and the ballista didn't. So from here I'm looking at a Gortach that's very wounded. Probably going to send him back to try and deal with miners, basically try to heal him. And also thinking about sending my Druid back there to try and deal with that as well. Now that my ambushes have come on, obviously he's able to push out more aggressively. And one of my mistakes in this game is going to come up real soon. Yeah, okay. So, as I said, I've turned these guys around to threaten the miners. There must be a reason why I had the angles the way that I did. I don't know. I'm not sure why I have the Gortach angled where his straight ahead doesn't get past the Druid. Seems like an odd choice. It might... No, because they block... I don't know. I don't know why I did it. It seems like a weird direction for him to be facing. Chaffed up the miners so they couldn't get into the rear of the Chariots or my Chariot characters. And basically what I was looking at here... So I charged his Seekers and could have chaffed his other Seekers in the flank, but I was looking at it and basically these Seekers couldn't charge past them. So they were in my flank, but to get past these Seekers, they would be missing my Chariots. So basically I said there, that means I don't have to chaff you, so I'm going to fly my Gargoyles over and they're going to threaten those catapults that are doing some damage to me. And that's probably more valuable because I think, given what I charge him, I fight in his turn, and then I have a third turn in my round. I think 3 rounds with impact hits, I should be able to get through these Seekers, was my thinking. And then I might be stuck there with copying a charge from these guys, but I'd possibly have a Gortach to turn around and maybe get in the way anyway. I'd be able to chuck the Soothsayer in front and my Beast Lord in the back if he charges me, so that he's just attacking the Scarification bro. Yeah, basically, I felt like I had options basically doing that. Obviously, the mistake there that I don't normally make, but was a little bit sloppy here, was obviously these Seekers can just reform. So they can just get out of the way of the other guys, and the other guys can get into the flank. They would need a 9, but on Swift Stride, so... yeah, basically, it was not... I shouldn't have done that. I should have just chaffed the Seekers, I think, in retrospect. I also sent my Giant into the flank of these Warriors, and, I mean, not being able to kill 5 or 6 was probably fairly reasonable, because with AP0, you're probably relying quite a bit on Thunderstomp to do that, so not getting a good Thunderstomp means that you don't break them. I don't have a monster rank, because I took Sober with them, so realistically, he was always sort of a bit vulnerable, but I don't think I thought about that at the time. I thought, I'm going to go into the flank of this 10-man infantry unit with a Giant, and I'm going to blow through them, which was probably thinking a bit too optimistically. So, yeah, at the end of the round, I got the Seekers down to 10 models. Nothing's happening here. Is there something? Okay, yeah, and at the end of that, looks like I only killed 2 with the Giant. Giant turned around, and basically, the position here is, don't really care about giving the Warriors my flank. I think I should still win the combat. Means that if my Giant flees, it's quite a long overrun for these Seekers to get into the Wildhorns. Not as long for these guys, but whatever. And if the Giant dies, then these guys aren't going to be able to overrun. So it's still a long overrun for them. So it basically was keeping my Wildhorns a bit safer. Yeah, I've also got a Totem Beast now down near his catapults and anvil. So, yeah, in my opponent's turn, this looks like at the end of it, actually. So what's happened here? This Giant looks like he's dead. What I didn't think about, what I didn't plan for, was the fact that the Giant would flee, and he could make them flee from the Warriors and give him a charge into the flank of my Giants. So that was silly. It was a bad mistake. And it's not looking good for old Gigante over there. The Seekers made their 9 to the flank of my Chariots. This is actually after the combat, though. I did pretty well, basically, because I didn't take any wounds on my Soothsayer. Which is, I mean, isn't that unreasonable? Because if he wasn't able to maximize for 1, but even if he was, I'm 100, so he would get 7 models in contact with me. So presumably he's going paired weapons. He is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 wide. So he's got 21 attacks, hitting me on 4s, so 10.5, wounding me on 5s and re-rolling, and then I'd still have a 6-up save when he charges me, and a 5-up save thereafter. So not taking a wound there was probably a little bit lucky, but like that's a good roadblock to stop them from doing wounds to him, basically. He did get, I think, -1 to wound up twice on these Seekers, which just meant that my Shaman was going to attack to the left and my Beast Lord, Huasta, was going to attack to the front. And the Beast Lord's main attacks are his great weapon anyway, so winning on 4s and re-rolling, still okay, basically. So they were sticking in pretty well. They were winning the combat. And that was basically it. So on to my turn. I sent the Centaurs into the flank of that Giant combat. I don't think it was a good choice, but I was worried, I think, about the Centaur's getting charged anyway. So, what have I got? I get into him, I've got 3 models in contact, I get 9 attacks, 10 if my champion's there, I don't know, it looks like I didn't mark him, so who knows if I counted him being in. 9 attacks, hitting on 4s, maybe re-rolling, winning on 2s, he gets a 6-up ward save. He might kill my giant, striking the same time as him, so I've got 5 attacks, maybe a Thunderstomp. Essentially, I looked at this and... I mean, I guess let's figure out the maths. So, 75 would mean he'd have, 4, so 5. So he'd have 15 attacks at my giant, because he's probably choosing paired weapons. Yeah, that probably... great weapons would win me on 2s. 10 attacks. So 10 attacks on 3s is 6.7. On 2... Let me just do the maths off screen. 1 second. Okay, so if he chooses great weapons, on average he does 5 or 6 wounds. Which means also he needs to factor in the fact that because he's at G0, he'd be taking a Thunderstomp, which he probably doesn't want. I'm pretty sure he did take paired weapons. And the average there is 5 wounds. So theoretically, he shouldn't kill me. I should get 5 auto-hitting attacks, winning him on 3s. Then I should get a Thunderstomp. So that's like 8.5 auto-hitting, say 6 wounds and 1 save, so 5. He'd have 6 attacks to the flank. 3s and 3s, he still sent 5, so let's say 3. So he's done 8 wounds in total. I've still got my 9 attacks at him. If I don't pass Primal, that's 4.5. That's like 3.5 wounds. I feel like it's quite even at that point. We've both got a charge in the flank with a rank. So actually, yeah, it's probably not that bad, me sending them in there. Particularly because if they don't get Primal Fury off, it's it's like if I do get Primal Fury off, it should be good. If I don't, then it sucks. My memory of this combat is basically that my opponent rolled like more 6s for ward saves than anything else, and I lost. I know I lost that one, and I think that was basically the big turning point. He rolled a lot of ward saves. But I think, obviously, it sounded like it was a pretty close combat based on the math, so like I could have easily lost it anyway. But probably not a bad decision, because the Centaurs didn't have many places to go where they wouldn't get charged by the Seekers. So it was sort of like a way to maybe win the combat by, combining the Giant and the Centaur attacks is better than me getting charged by the Seekers, basically. Other than that, my Druid charged the Miners. My Gortach probably wanted to, but or maybe he didn't want to take a standard shoot. I don't know. Maybe he failed. I don't know what happened over here. Gortach might be about to move. Let's find out. Okay. Okay. So this is actually after combats. So now I've taken a couple of wounds over here. Things are looking a bit grim there. These guys have actually... Oh, these guys here, this was, I think, last turn. This is... Oh, no, this is after my opponent's moves. Yeah, okay. Sorry, whatever. Okay, because these guys have moved all the way around. These guys charged my Chariots. My Gortach is here on 1 wound, basically. Didn't get killed by the throwing weapons, I'm pretty sure. He magic moved that somewhere. I don't know. I think he moved it up here and lost some shots. As you can see, I lost this combat here. My Centaurs are running away. Over down in the bottom, I'm taking care of those war machines and the anvil. Slowly but surely. These guys are pretty much just marching towards my objective. I'm sort of hoping that I can hold on here with the Chariot characters, but it's not looking terrific, to be honest. It's just sort of like a slow loss that I can't quite break through. And yeah, otherwise, I must have lost... So he did average wounds to me. I did... I did quite a few... Oh no, I only did 6. Yeah, I did 6 wounds to him. Which isn't that far below average, I don't think. But whatever. Lost that one running away. I did end up winning this combat with the Chariots, actually. So... Did I? I must have escaped. Maybe I win something later. I don't know. So no, he beat me and I ran. Finally, my Shamanism guy over here died. I think actually, to be honest, that might be him overperforming on that guy. That's how tough he is. It also meant that I couldn't turn around to face him because I'd be taking models out of contact. And pretty much from here, what I'm looking at is the Gortach. It wants to go kill his BSB. If I get a buff on him, it's almost a decent chance that the Gortach lives, to be honest. Not sure what these guys were worried about and why they were running, but they're not going to get charged in the flank by Seekers. That seems like a bad idea. Whatever. They must have just turned around. I don't know. I shot at them, did basically nothing. I standard shot at them, did basically nothing as well. As you can see, the Seekers eventually killed my characters. My Druid is doing good work on the objective, killing these miners, basically. I just need my Centaurs to rally. And I've got a pretty good chance of winning the objective because I'll be able to get 2 units in there. However, they didn't. And a bit poor positioning, basically, on my part for the Wildhorns meant that I couldn't back them up into the objective. I should have been thinking about that earlier. So, in the end, basically, my Druid up here cleaned everybody up. He got into the objective with his scoring unit. My Centaurs never rallied. I don't think I actually made it off the board, but they couldn't make it into the deployment zone, unfortunately. I cleaned up everything at the bottom. I killed these warriors with my chariots, and I eventually did kill these Seekers, I'm pretty sure, with my Wildhorns. Or maybe, by the looks of it, it's just gone down to 1 model. Yeah. I left him with 1 model left alive. And I unfortunately didn't have enough to go long and get into his deployment zone, because I positioned them kind of poorly. And that is basically the end result. He got in and killed my Gargoyles up here, but with the Hereditary up, my Soothsayer didn't care. And that was the end result of the game. Really, really bloody. My Gortach, by the way, did kill his BSB, did charge him when he was down in this position. This is after they got attacked. Killed the BSB. Gortach died in return. And yeah, basically, we ended up drawing the objective, which I felt was a little bit unlucky, because I had a pretty strong hand on it for quite a while. But I won the game 12-8 on points. So, yeah, it was pretty fun, solid game all around. I definitely made a few mistakes. Like, I guess the big one, or the biggest one, was when I was here and I didn't chaff these Seekers because I forgot that he could reform out of his own way, basically. And I also think this giant charge into these warriors was probably a mistake, because I was unlikely to break him, and it gave him too much of a decent chance to get in with his Seekers. I could have positioned this giant differently as well to not give him the overrun. I didn't think about it, basically. So, if I'm looking at like the big mistakes I made in the game, those are basically it. I should have positioned this guy differently to not give him, like, even if I took the charge, like, okay, but I should have not given him the overrun potential, basically. The Chariot one, in the end, maybe was okay. So I still think it's a mistake. Well, I mean, it was a mistake in that, like, I was thinking incorrectly. I did the wrong thing. But the end result down here with my Gargoyles was that I think they were needed to kill the Anvil. So I got like 600 points from the catapults and like 200 points from the Anvil. My Chariot characters got 1 unit of those Seekers. Didn't get the other ones, but like sort of were in a logjam there for quite a while. And quite feasibly could have tanked that. I think that like maybe with some better healing or something, like maybe with something happening a little bit better for me, a little bit better luck, because I think it was quite close. So like, you know, I'm not mad that it went against me. It was as if it was stacked in my favor. With a little bit of better luck there, it might have turned where I actually don't lose those characters. Particularly if I had rolled better for my impact hits, because I think I rolled a 1 and a 2. So potentially if I'd rolled better for my impact hits in the first round, that might have given me like basically that extra little bit of time where I kill those guys before my Soothsayer dies, and then I get to turn around with my Beast Lord when the Soothsayer dies anyway. He might not have, because he was taking less attacks at that point then. Even if he died though, my Beast Lord wouldn't have the 7 attacking him, he'd only have 4 attacking him. So, in hindsight, it maybe wasn't a mistake, because if I leave these catapults alive, they could just be killing like my Druid, they could be killing my Gortach. Those guys were, or at least the Druid was instrumental in killing his scoring units in my zone. So in the overall context of the game, it might have actually been okay that I went for those catapults anyway, particularly because he needed a 9 to get in there. Like, if he hadn't have made that charge, which is very makeable, so particularly with Swift Strode, so like whatever. But if you hadn't have made it, it's like, I don't lose anything for having tried it, basically. So that's maybe not a huge mistake. But I think, regardless of the fact that I think I could have been unlucky down on this right flank with his Seekers, if I didn't give him this opportunity, I think I don't lose the objective. Like, I think I've... as the game turned out at the top, I was able to deal with his miners pretty well. So I think if I hadn't given him the flank into my Giant... even if it was just a front, because I'm pretty sure I didn't lose by much. Yeah, I think that might have been sort of game-winning for me, because, you know, even if we end up on the same points, because everything that dies anyway, the end result being me winning the objective takes it to a 15-5, which is pretty strong at that point. So, like, 12-8 is good, and I'm happy with it, but a 15-5 is like, you know, sort of like that, on that cusp of like, it's a much better win. Like 12-8 is still pretty close to a draw, whereas a 15-5 is a very solid win, basically. So I think if I hadn't made that mistake, I could have gotten that win. Overall, I was a little bit unhappy with how I played, because I don't normally make those sort of small details mistakes. My mistakes are more tending towards being like, I've approached the game wrong. Like, you know, I've pushed when I shouldn't have pushed, or I've pushed in the wrong areas or something. I prioritized wrong parts of his army to deal with. Yeah, like, so I wasn't overly happy with how I played, but it was still like, obviously, it was a really fun game. And games are fun when lots of stuff like that happens. Like, oftentimes games are a little bit more fun when you do make mistakes, I think. Because, like, if I hadn't made that mistake with the Giant, there'd be a lot less interesting happening down in that right corner. So, like, I mean, obviously I'm trying to win, and I, you know, didn't do any of those on purpose, but the game was probably a little bit less interesting if the scoring and the objective wasn't so tight all the way to the end, basically. So, kind of okay with the fact that I made those mistakes. It was a lot of fun. Yeah, basically that was it. Would have liked probably a better result, given that I thought that the matchup was favourable to me. And I don't think that sort of I got super unlucky, where, like, sometimes you might be like, I think this game is favourable, but unfortunately his catapults both hit and killed one of my wizards turn 1, and then I was sort of fighting uphill the whole time. So, you know, nothing big and significant in terms of bad luck happened. I don't think anything hugely significant in terms of good luck happened either. But yeah, basically, I would have liked to bring back a better result for the team, but we did what we could. My next game is against Empire. I don't think... I had a look earlier. I don't think I've got many pictures for that one, but we'll see what we can do with telling that story as well. I hope you enjoyed this one, guys, and I'll catch you for the next one.